There we go. So anyway, that journey of, you need something? Okay. That journey of just really wanting to know about the white Jesus led me on paths that I never would have dreamed I would go on. Some of those have been paths as an adventurous, and some of those have been paths that has been as an escape artist. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move along. But that's really how this started. Who am I started with the little girl in me, the 4-year-old Pam, who was attending a Baptist church with her mother with the white Jesus, a Methodist church with her father with the white Jesus, and she being Black, asking, who am I? And not only who am I, but who is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? And I really needed to know that. And no adult could give me an answer when I was a little girl. And somehow all of those questions managed to stay with me up until right now, still asking those same kind of very deep questions. And so when I created this Who Am I program, and these brave women went through this journey with me, at the end of that program, I would have a sweet friend who owned a DNA company. And I was sharing with him that I've been doing some DNA. African ancestry is the second one that I'd done. Before that, I did 23andMe. I was literally looking for my tribe. Like, what African tribe do I come from? Well, that looking would bring me to a halo group, which means that they didn't have my tribe under the DNA that I gave. And only 5% of people fall within this halo group. And they tell you this when you first pay for this $400 test. And if you fall within the halo group, you just learn the halo group, which for me was like a L5, which meant nothing. I looked it up, Asian Pacific Islander, it's this idea that some of the Africans migrated to different parts of, they call it Asia now, it was probably Africa back then. And that's where my people were from. Well, that meant nothing. And my friend, I shared this with him, and he goes, oh, well, I have a company, and this is what we do. So he started to send me different DNA tests and looking for my tribe. I would learn that the man who raised me, the only father that I ever knew, for my 50th birthday, I learned that he was not my father. It was almost a year to the date. It was April the 12th. I remember the exact day. And I found out that he wasn't my father. And so now the question of who am I, it magnified times 1,000, because now everything that I thought I was as Pam in this body was now being questioned. So that's sort of the backstory of how the Book of Me came about. And as I started to just trace all of these journeys that I've been through specifically over the last 4 years, and I'm saying the last 4 years because it was about 4 years ago that I ended my marriage. And so from that, so much more evolution within me started to open up. So the Book of Me really took me back all the way to the Bible, like to really understand, what is this all about? And this was all relating to me in the beginning, because that's all I could run this up against. And that's what I'm about to share with you, this journey that has allowed me to see that our creation is exact. There are no mistakes, and you can't get it wrong. Just like the oak tree sleeps within the acorn, everything that we are meant to be was programmed within us before we were even in our mother's womb. So I just wanted to give you a little backstory on how the Book of Me came about. And then it would be so fitting that they would drop a movie called The Book of Clarence, which answered all of my Black Jesus, white Jesus questions in a very, just the way that I needed. And then I would go on to Netflix and see some parody called The Book of Sleep, which was just hilarious, but it just represented this idea of what if we wrote our own book? What if my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren wouldn't know about me through conversation with whomever, but I would be able to write down what I've learned about my journey from conception until I finish writing this story. And so this is what I want to leave you with as we go through here, just this idea of knowing that you have a very specific book. And we've moved so far along now in science that we can decode almost to the codon ring exactly who you were created to be. Now, it doesn't mean that you may be walking in that totally, but just to see that and know that is an activation of the soul. All right, so let's get this party started. So what's the intent here? Where's my notes? I don't know what the intent is. The intent really is for me to activate you at a cellular level. Whenever I'm talking to my kids and I'm saying something that seems like it's really far over their understanding, I always say, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to your cells, because your logical mind may not even, that is not how you spell intent. Your logical mind may not even be able to grasp this. But at a cellular level, you will certainly recognize what it is that I'm sharing with you. So, ghost of my past. Before we get started, y'all, there's this head blessing that Iyanla taught me when she was also a part of my journey a couple of years ago. She was getting us ready. She was calling us spiritual warriors and had us doing all sorts of things that I'm seeing come to pass now. And one of those things she taught us was a head blessing as a way to receive all of the information she was giving us that seemed way over my head at the time, but now it seems so simple. So I know that this head blessing is very effective. You can choose to do it or not, but it certainly will assist you in just opening up from a place of just truth, just pure truth. So it starts like this, and you can just follow me. You start at the center of your head, and you just say, I bless the spirit of my head. And this is just to run your fingers down where your thinking mind is. So I bless the spirit of my head. And then you run it down the middle, and you say, I bless the spiritual energy of my head. And then across your forehead, I bless my spiritual eyes that I may see things clearly. I bless my spiritual vision that I may see truth in my life. I bless my ears that I may hear and follow the guidance of spirit. I bless my ability to speak the truth of the spirit, to affirm the guidance of spirit, to give thanks for the spirit. I bless every breath out of my nostrils that enables me to breathe in the spirit. I bless my spiritual identity as an expression of the Creator, making me an expression of divinity. I bless the spirit of my head to guide me through this day. I bless the spirit of my head to protect me through this day. Ashe. And that's just the opening up so that I'm just talking in spirit and truth, and you're just receiving exactly what's for you. I wrote this poem a couple of nights ago, and I want to read it to you because I think it speaks dearly to what I'm about to share. And it's called Ghost of My Past. It says, as I look across the table and listen to you speak, I feel a sense of uneasiness, like your words don't match what you've been. You continue on, then I realize what's going on. You are showing me who I used to be, ghost of my past. The real flex is what I choose to do. Now that I realize me is you, in a different form, here to model what I have become, to pay it forward in this game of humaning, cycling the shit that we used to be, making it fertilizer for what's to come. Ghost of my past. Ghost of my past, I see you. No judgment is held. I receive you as I receive myself. Here to mirror a different expression of the same self. We are one, ghost of my past. And this is important because if you're here, on some level of frequency, we resonate with each other. We're always mirroring for each other, the parts we love and the parts that we don't love so much. So everyone who's on this call, you are a ghost of my past, or maybe a ghost of my future. I don't know. I just know that the wrong person can't be here and the right person cannot not be here. So if you're here, just know that it is purposeful and it is intentional. And I'm glad you're here because that's the only way I can know the vibration that I'm vibing at, by what I attract. And the same thing as you. And if you're here, if you said yes to this, I know that I vibe on a very high level. And I didn't expect this room to be full of people because I don't really appeal to the masses. I appeal to the select. And I know this to be true about myself. And so you must know that to be true about yourself also. So thank you for being here. So in the beginning was the logos. The logos means the word. It means the thing that was created even before there was a thing that we could see. It was the void. And of all of the sacred scripture, I don't even like to call it sacred anymore. I just call it scripture because it's a writing. It's the sacredness comes from how you embody it. But all of the scripture are just their texts that have been interpreted by somebody. But this word logos, we use the word in the beginning was the word, but the logos was the creation. And so just know that everything that you see, you know, I really need my notes. I have something so beautiful to read to you, but I can't see how to see it. Let me see. I know I don't need the notes, but I appreciate the notes so I don't miss anything. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna stop the share and I'm gonna see if I can make it go in my notes section because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss a thing. Okay, give me a second, y'all. Give me just a sec while I put this in presenter's view and pull you back up. Share screen. Oop. Share. Then admit. All right. Now let me try this again. Present. Okay. It's kind of a little delay for me, so I'm gonna probably ask y'all, when does it come up? Can y'all see the screen back?
Yes.
I can't see y'all no more. I don't know what I did. That's okay. I still can't see my notes. Okay, y'all hold on for me 1 second. Okay. Admit. Still got people coming in, so that's good for a good delay for me while I pull up my notes. And I would love to see y'all again, but I ain't gonna worry about it. And thank you, Paige. Paige say, go to the notes on your phone, mama. You can't see them in presenters now. Thank you, sister. but I can't see him either, Paige. I need an assistant who's like right here with me. All right. It won't let me be great, y'all. I'm just gonna have to go from what I know. This sucks. Oh, that's not a nice thing to say. I'm gonna try this one more time. I'm gonna stop the share and share screen. Mm, mm, mm. I don't know. I had it all figured out. And now I don't. Okay. I won't even advance. All right, good people. It keeps going back. Okay, here we go. What does it look like now? Can y'all see my screen and my notes?
Girl, we can see everything. Your screen, your notes, your tabs, your bookmarks.
That's my daughter calling me girl. Paige, stop it. Don't do me like that. Oh, shoot, man.
Mama, open up Canva on your phone.
I
Use the
have.
notes in Canva on your phone and put
I
this in
can't find
presenters out.
them.
Bless
Oh,
Aisha.
oh, I see it. I see it, sister. I
Oh,
appreciate
so proud
that.
of you. Good job.
Thank you.
I'll send my invoice. Don't worry.
I'll send mine too. All right, enter full screen mode. Okay. Thank you. Why did it take you so long to come on and tell me that? Okay, in the beginning was the logos. Here we go. So this is what I wanted to read to you. This is from John 1 and 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things that were made through him, and without him wasn't anything made that hadn't been made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness apprehended it not. And the reason why that is so important, and man, this may really, really touch you somewhere deep. I need to be able to see a few faces. Here we go. So I can see how y'all feeling about that. This is what I mean when I say that. Everything, God made everything, y'all. Trump, Hitler, Obama, and Martin Luther King. Nobody's excluded from the game, even if they play in a way that does not seem honorable. So I'm pre-setting this up because in order for you to really receive, you got to lay your judgment and your idea about life down just while we go through this, because you're already blessed the spirit of your head to just be able to receive from a clear place, from the center of this beginning, because we're all a part of this out picturing of this fractal of the beginning. Okay, so I talked past my next slide. Okay, I can. Ooh, y'all. There we go. All right. In the beginning was the perfect idea. And the perfect idea, when you look at this picture, it's hard to even imagine, like, this is a cell. This is the beginning of life for you. This little teeny thing that we call a cell. And when you really look at it with a very open imagination, you can see all sorts of things in it. You can see water, you can see trees, you can see, these are mitochondria, nucleus. These are really, things of a cell. But just think in your mind that you started out as one of those. Your potential was in this little bitty cell in the beginning. So just to give you just a little bit of anatomy, because in order for you to understand yourself, it's important that you understand what is a cell, what's a nucleus, what's DNA, what's genes, what's chromosomes. And I'm going to give you a full science lesson, but it's important to know that the cell is the smallest unit that can live on its own. It's the smallest unit of life, and it make up all living things. Rocks, walls, glass, everything has life and energy in it. Nothing is void of it. All of it can be put underneath the microscope and you can see activity. So the cell has three layers: the outer layer, the inner layer, and then the nucleus. And the cell is mostly water. Most of you know that I love water. I love traveling to places and going to sacred waters. All of my retreats are heavily involved with water because we are water. I listened to this song by this Hispanic girl, and the song is literally called "What If God Is Water?" And when you understand the makeup of a cell and know that we're just multiplications, we're the cell over and over and over, multiplied, then you understand that there's a really sweet relationship to us in water. You just think about where we started in the mother's womb, full of water, right? So just keep that in your mind also, the importance of water at a cellular level. So the nucleus, the center of the cell, this is the membrane that has all of the chromosomes inside of it. And the DNA, DNA, Dana, we call it in the hood, is the chemical that exists in every cell in your body that holds the codes together. It literally makes up your instruction manual. And a chromosome is just 23 pairs from your mom and 23 or 22 pairs from your mom, 22 pairs from your dad, and then one pair of sex chromosomes from each of them. Your dad has XY, the mom only has X, right? So the dad always determines the paternity of the child because he carries the X and the Y chromosome. Yeah, got that? All right. That's just a mini little science lesson so you can look and see this is what you're made of on a cellular level. Now, this part right here has been one of my favorites. So think about that. Just looking at that picture, all the eggs a woman will ever carry forming her ovaries while she is 4 months old in the womb of her mother. So if you wanted to just make that simple, my mom is only 4 months older than me because when she was 4 months in the womb into the second trimester, she had every egg that she would ever have. I was one of those eggs inside of her. Think about that for yourself. So the year that your mother was born, or the year that your mother was 4 months pregnant, for me, that was 1940. My mom was born September of 1940. So this means our cellular life as an egg begins in the womb of our grandmother. So that means not only do you have the influence of your mother in the womb, but it's really your grandmother who set up the environment for what you will be moving through in the book of me for all of the years to come. You really are the ancestor. And then you just start to trace that back. Your grandmother had the same story inside of her mother's womb. So you can see all of this influence, and we haven't even been born yet. I say this is created. This is when you were created. The book of you, we already started with, in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, the logos. right? We're really an out fracture of that. That's the one. And then it's just fractals everywhere. And we're one of those fractals coming through the womb of all of the women who have came before us. Each of us spent 4 months in our grandmother's womb, and she in turn formed within the womb of her grandmother. We vibrate to the rhythm of our mother's blood before she herself is born. We vibrate to the rhythm of our mother's blood. This pulse is the thread of blood that runs all the way through the grandmothers to the first mother, which is Earth. Earth, as we see it, the trees, the grass, all of the things, that's the first mother. And there's a lot of speculation about how we came from that. Don't nobody really know, but we know that we mimic the exact same cycle of nature. And if we don't mimic it, we didn't confuse the levels, and then we have dis-ease. But we'll get to that later. But I'm just starting to wanting to get you to think about when you were created, when you made, and when you were born. So we store all of our mothers and grandmothers in our wombs, all of their trauma, everything your grandmother was going through when she was pregnant. So you just in thinking about that, and you think about, just racism and all of the things connected to that, and why we feel like we feel, some of the shit that we transmuting, not even ours. It's really ancestral. And we really are here to make it better than it was before. And we don't have to make it better. It just gets better because that's how evolution does. It's always proceeding out of itself in an orderly sequence of growth, better than what it was before. And we know this to be true when we look back. I'm not experiencing what my mom experienced in 1940 or what her mother experienced way before then. I'm not experiencing it on a physical plane, but on the emotional plane and on a physical plane, there are many things that we've passed down to the next generation through the womb, because it's the thing that we're here to transmute. And we've done a wonderful job. I know there's a lot of things going on in the world that aren't all that kind, but all in all, just the big scheme of things. I mean, we can turn on hot and cold water, like all of the privileges we have, especially to be an American, right? So just think about that. All of these misspelled words. Anyway, so created in the mother's womb. Let's keep it going. Now let's talk about how you were made. So I was made in 1971. This is the point when the sperm and the egg united. Now, just think about this. Men start their life racing because probably, I don't know how many millions of sperm prepare to make that journey to meet one egg, y'all. Millions of sperm that reproduce over and over and over and over again constantly. They're not like us. They don't have all of their sperm when they're inside of the womb. Thank God we couldn't survive like that as women with all that testosterone in us. But think about just the basic genetic makeup of a man. Competition. Well, he started his life in competition. Look at the race for one. And when the one egg releases, whatever the magic that we call God's source, whatever you use, decides if that's a suitable mate for the two to become one. I don't know what that scripture is, but there's a scripture about when the two become one and can't no man separate it. Ain't nobody told me that this is what that scripture means, but somebody told me, and it didn't come from a book. Because when the two become one, it cannot ever be separated from this standpoint. Just let that sink in. You're no accident. You're exactly supposed to be here, exactly where you are, doing exactly what you're doing with whoever you're doing it with. It's all pre-planned. It's programmed inside of you. All right. So now the two then became one, and you're inside of the womb. The Trinity and trimesters. So one of the other questions when I was little is, what is the Trinity? What is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost? Who are they? Are they three persons, one person's? What? I'm not going to get into that whole discussion with you. You'll have to get that download for yourself. But I see the Trinity now in almost everything. In almost everything, I see the Trinity. So the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit could be a lot of things to me. And I can only talk from my perception, my perspective, and the things that I've received. So if you're not resonating with it, that's okay. This is just to filter through you. And one thing about truth is it has a way of igniting in you what needs to be known at the time. And some of these things may come back to you later on. And I know this to be true because that's how it's been in my journey, especially with Iyanla. She would always say, don't try to understand it with your mind. Your mind can't understand this. And 2 years later, I'm finding that to be so true. So if right now your brain is going, what the hell? Don't worry about that. Just know that it'll all activate exactly when it needs to for you. So the Trinity and trimesters, the physiological architecture of your awareness is laid down during the first 3 trimesters in the mother's womb. How you hear, see, smell, taste, touch, all comes from or heavily influenced by the time you spend in the waters of your mother's belly. That's your second journey, though, because remember, you'd already been in your grandmother's belly. So you can see already this gumbo of stuff that, and you ain't even been born yet. You're just at the second Trinity. You was made, then you was created, and then there's not even birth yet. Within the before you finish the first 3, you got another 3 inserted where you're inside of the womb. Guys, it still blows my mind every time I think about this. But we're in times where it's time for us to know all of the things that seem like a secret, 10 years ago are now being made very, very open. And this is one of those things. This has always been the case. I'm a nurse, and I've never really thought about the idea that I was in my grandmother's belly first. That really explains a lot of things that I don't understand, because I don't even know who my grandmother was, at least not in physical form. But now I know that I carry her within me, and you carry yours as well. Okay, and so then I was born July 19th, 1972 at 12:10. Why do we take birth times? Because it matters. It's so exact that this birth time, you can look at where the planets, the sun, the moon, we call it astrology. You can look at what was going on in the sky, and it is almost an exact blueprint of the book of you. And I know this to be true because I have walked myself all the way through mine, and I'm going to show you that because that's what I want to offer you, an opportunity to walk yourself through from your grandmother's womb to everything that you are willing to look at in your experience in life up until this point. So I'm 51 years old in age, but when I was born, I was already 32 cellular years old because I've been in my grandmother's womb since my mom was a 4-month-old fetus. So in my head, my mom only 4 months older than me, and my mom is 80. She'll be 84 this year. So I'm really 83 in 4 months. Right? Calculate your cellular age. And I've always felt like an old soul, but I can see why now. You're born. And the first 7 years of your life, I think it's the Mormons that say Give me a child until he's 7 and I'll show you the man. That's very scientific, because the first 7 years is when you are remembering how to walk, how to experience life, use your hands, remember, nobody has to teach a kid how to walk. Nobody has to teach a kid how to suck. Those are things that are already pre-programmed. What we do is we teach the kids the way we think we should be, or they should be, based on what our parents taught us. We're not going to look at a chart and say, I see all of these things and I want to deal with you according to your astrological chart, at least not Americans. But there are other countries where it's the chart that determine who you go marry. If they look at the chart and if it's not an alignment in the chart, that's already a no-go. And we're not really into things like that. I was taught that using anything astrological was demonic. Even though when you look at the 7-day creation story, I believe on day 4 is when the stars, the moon, the sky, and all of the things were created for signs and seasons. But up until now, we haven't really been taking advantage of what those signs and seasons are trying to teach us. I believe we come from that. We're stardust. We're just the out fractal of everything that's above. We're just below playing it out in the game of life. And so those first 7 years, you get this programming from the womb first, and then it is influenced by the environment that you're in. So I shared with you guys that I grew up with what I thought was my biological family, but later would find out that it wasn't. But what I know to be true is, and this is also true at a cellular level, Dr. Bruce Lipton, one of my favorite doctors, he talks about when he did this first experiment, and he was an atheist when he started this journey. And he took one cell and he put that same cell in several different petri dishes. And what he would come to find is that the environment of the petri dish, meaning whatever was in there as the base, is what influenced how the cell behaved, not the cell itself. And there were many people who would say, I look like my father, I act like my father, like all of the things. And I believe that to be true as well. But then learning that the cell, the way we be, the way we show up, is highly influenced by the environment that we're in. So I adapted to what I grew up in just because that's the way it works. You are what you are around. You are what you eat. You are what you ingest. This is true for all things. So those first 7 years influence so much of who we are. We're so innocent at the time, but we take on the ways of being as the people that are around us, all divinely designed also. And then the second 7 years, the 8 to 14, is when we start to take on our emotional patterns. This is when we learn how we show up with people. And if you're a girl or a boy, this is a time when puberty starts. You get your cycle, or for men, I believe the testicles start to drop, the breasts start to go. All of these emotional things are happening on a cellular level. You are also changing a lot. Your body is changing, right? You're not in the same skin that you were in those first, hell, every day your body is changing, your skin is changing and turning over. But it takes 7 years pretty much for cells to turn over and become new, okay? And then the last 7 years, 15 to 21, is when your intellectual understanding come on board. It's how you learn to intellectualize with the world and deal with people. It's your mental, your thinking comes on board here. But let's not forget, it all goes back to, in the beginning was the logos, the word. So we were spoken to existence. And then we go through these 7-year cycles, through the grandmother, through the mother, through the environment, through the system, through career. And 15 to 21 years, we're pretty much set up for who we're going we're hardwired for who we're going to be in so many ways. And now we get to see, is what we created in harmony with who we're becoming? And if it is, then no worries. If it's not, you have the opportunity to flex that. So I say that to mean that, you can't get it wrong, but you can confuse the levels. And if you confuse the levels, we call that dis-ease. It's you just out of harmony with the levels. But it's always going to correct itself. And it can correct itself in a lot of ways. We're talking about dis-ease through medicine, through diet change, through chemo, if you've had to go through cancer, through insulin, if you've had to deal with diabetes, through all of these different ways. We have this technology that can correct some of these things as a bridge, not fix, but can correct it in the moment. This is what makes that available, possible. And this is sort of the game of life. Like what you gonna transmute, what you gonna leave for your kids to transmute. It's already pre-programmed, but to know that you have the ability to do now what we call epigenetics, you can change how you be by changing how you feel, changing how you think, changing the knowledge that's coming in. So wherever you are in your journey, when you get off of this call, you will not be the same. There's no way you can be, because you have new information that's really not new. I'm really just giving you something to remember from before. It's not new. You're just remembering. And sometimes maybe I'll say something and you'll look, I feel like that. I feel like I knew that already. I don't know how, because you're just remembering. Okay? So just hold that idea a little bit sacred. So let me just talk to you a little bit about what does this mapping look like? Like, what does change screen? What does this, when I talk about the emotional intelligence and the emotional patterns, the intellectual patterns, your spiritual patterns, and then the core of who you are, I'm talking about something called the Venus sequence. And what this is literally a look at your DNA. It's something called human design, which is taken from another sacred text called the I Ching. And what the I Ching does is it takes the 64 strands of your DNA. Remember, you have 22 from your dad, 22 from mom, and then a sex gene from each one of them. And that DNA, it has these proteins on, let's call them. There's 4 proteins on this DNA. And it can be configured. Remember, I was talking about the codes. It has 3. There we go to the Trinity again. It takes 3 of those, and that's how it makes the book of you. Okay. So the gene keys are those 64 genes, but instead of looking at who is your bloodline, it's looking at the emotional patterns of each of these genes, knowing that each one contains a seed for the evolution of growth. Seed, sprout, plant, but we call it the shadow, the gift, and your essence. And it's in every piece of DNA in you. And we all have all of the genes within us. But depending on the time, the year, and the place you were born, there's some that are going to be more influenced than others. So if you had the opportunity, when you got your registration link, I gave you a link to create a free profile so that you can pull up what's called your hologenetic profile. And it shows you what your gene keys are. And this little stick man you're seeing, this just represents the mind. And I'm going to show you a better version of that so you can see how your senses, even now as an adult, your senses play such a huge role in how you're showing up in your life right now. So if you look down at that bottom picture at the core, the 3 trimesters, if you could imagine it having those same 5 senses, those really start down there. But those are the same 5 senses that were influenced in the womb. They still influencing you now. What you hear, see, smell, taste, touch are highly influenced by your womb activity. So just be mindful of that and look at your mother's health. Look at how your mother eats. Look at what she does. And you may have already transmuted some things about your mother, your growing up in the womb that you wanted to do different. I've been very blessed in that food has always been a thing that my mother was passionate about. So I've always had a healthy diet, and I'm super grateful for that. And the other sense is what I heard, you know, a lot of loud talking and a lot of hollering. My dad was a fusser. So I've been a fusser most of my life. Just over the last few years have I started to kind of back that down and started to just look at a new way of communicating with my children, different than how my father communicated with us growing up. So this is what the profile looks like. If you've already pulled yours up, you may see some blue here and some green here, but the specific one that we're looking at that has like what your wounding is and how you do life spiritually and emotionally and intellectually, what does that look like? This is it. And it doesn't convert good over here, but you can just see an idea when I talk about these words of what was in you. So when I look, and if you pull yours up, and I'm going to send you a recording of this so you'll have the opportunity to pull your profile up and then go back and listen to some of the things that I was sharing with you. You will see this come to life in a very unique way. So again, don't be overwhelmed by what you see. I'm going to take the next 5 minutes and I'm just going to walk you through the book of Pam based on these gene keys and what I've uncovered in my life through contemplation. This journey is really not a journey that somebody can tell you how to do it or when to do it, or it's really one that requires you to be ready to go within and evaluate who you are, who you would like to become. And the best way to do that is to ask yourself, where do you experience dis-ease in your body? And where do you experience ease? Because the ease is going to always show you your gifts, and the dis-ease is going to show you your shadows. And the essence is your Christ consciousness. It's who you came here to be. And that's that top word. So let me walk you through my story from this gene key. So my purpose, remember I said, or maybe I didn't, but there's a Jeremiah scripture that says, before I formed you in your mother's belly, I knew you. I would call this my purpose. And so the purpose that was formed within me was to transmute the shadow of corruption into the essence of harmony using the gift of equilibrium. Now, I told you that I learned my biological father wasn't my biological father. Is there anything more corrupt than that? My corruption literally started in the womb, right here in purpose. I didn't even know that until I was 50 something. Okay. Out of that corruption, I would have to find equilibrium because I love my mother. I don't fault her. I'm not mad at her. I'm not, because I know that before I was in my mother's belly, there was a plan for me. And there's a part of me that feels like there's this book that I recommend to everybody. I can't even think of the name of it now, but it's by Neil Donald Walsh. And Cicely, if you can jump in and say the name, it's just right on the edge of my tongue. But in the book, he talks about it's for children. And it talks about that we sitting, just imagine us sitting in heaven, you know, wherever you think heaven is, and you saying, okay, I want to go down there and do this earthing thing. And when I go down there, I want to learn how to live in harmony. And then God says, well, okay, but the only way you can learn to live in harmony is you got to live in corruption, because harmony comes out of corruption. And I'm like, okay. It's like, are you sure? Because if you forget, you might change your mind or you may want to do something different, but don't worry about it, because I'll send you people to remind you that you chose to come down to do the earth thing and experience harmony. That's just how I see it. That has worked for me in my healing journey and trying to overstand this thing. When I tell you, I don't have 1 ounce of hate or regret or anything towards my mother. All I can say is, if she chose the best father that I could ever have, he was excellent for me in so many ways. Now, my siblings may have a different story. I'm number 11 of 11 children in a blended family. And I can say that I had an amazing childhood, even though our house was extremely dysfunctional and my dad was abusive to my mother and he was verbally abusive to my siblings, but not to me. Go figure. But I was in the environment around that. So a lot of that was also infused into me just by proxy of environment. Okay, so your dharma. The dharma is the thing that you are on here to unfold. It's like your life path. It's your game, and it's perfect. And so the attractor field, that's this next one. And these numbers you're seeing, again, these are your genes. So I got a 50, a 39, a 45. And there's this wonderful book that I highly recommend, and it's called The Gene Keys. And this book has all 64 of the genes, and it tells an amazing story. I got some messages in the chat. Oh, okay, no problem. Anyway, this book, please, you want to pick this book up. If you don't do anything else, this is a game changer. So get this book, hard copy, not on any electric thing. You need the book on this one. So my attractor field is these are the things that I would attract in order to evolve my sphere. Y'all, I thought I was ready. Hold on, y'all. My thing don't look so great. Oh, here it is, right here in front of me. So my 3 words in my attractor field are provocation, dynamism, and liberation. These are the things that would be attracted to me in order for me to move through my purpose and get to my IQ. So we're working this backwards. If I would have started from the core, this would have been me in my mother's womb. The spiritual quotient, that's 0 to 7. This is 8 to 14, and this is 15 to 21. So I'm working y'all backwards into me being a grown woman and going back to these things. But if I just skip and go up here to my core womb, this is when I'm in my mother's belly. This is the 3 trimesters that I showed you over on this side right here. This is the core, SQ, EQ, IQ, all right? Purpose is laying down here in the beginning of creation, just to give you a backtrack to that so you can see. You could also see it on this fetus right here, what that looked like in the womb, okay? So my IQ, my mental understanding, the shadow is dominance, the gift is synergy, and the essence is communion. And I just shared with y'all that my father was a very dominant person. And I found myself being like that in relationships, especially with men. My husband is on here. I see he logged in, and he can attest to this truth about, who I was when I was his wife and who I've become, as we've healed through a relationship of learning, of studying ourselves and getting to this point where we understand so many, even the reason for our connection during our divine marriage. All right. And so then the EQ, the emotional part of me that came on board, 8 to 14 as a teenager, the shadow would be division. I felt this everywhere in my whole being. We lived in the hood in a 6-bedroom, 2-story house with built-ins and an intercom in 1972. But there were all frame houses around us. That felt like, I didn't know it was called division then. And then my parents sent me to school away from where I lived. So this division would be prominent in so many areas of my life during that period of 8 to 14. That was just one example. I won't get to the lines and all of that. But my spiritual quotient, this is on board 0 to 7. This is my first 7 years of being in the home. You really don't have a shadow at 0 to 7 because you're still pure. But my gift was adventure, and my essence is boundlessness. And I love to travel. You all know that. Adventure is my thing, but adventure could also be a shadow, as you can see down here in my purpose. It means I'll run from things. And I have a friend who used to literally call me. She used to say, where you at on the run? That's what she would call me. I traveled for work and I moved around a lot. And it's just been these last few years. I feel like God has slowed me down to a screeching halt. I don't go out much. I don't do many things away from my little sacred space. But I've been on the run all of my life, probably since I was in my grandmother's womb. And then my core wound is the same as my spiritual quote, which is very, very unusual in a profile. So it's like I got double of that. It's the thing that's the spiritual side of me, but it's the thing that's also the I think what's his name? Paul talks about having a thorn in his flesh, and nobody ever really can say what it is, but I think I would call that the core wound. And we all have one. It's the thing that give us the life. That's why we life, and because we have something here to evolve, right? An acorn can't life and be an oak tree until it's planted to do its thing. And it's the same way with us. If there was nothing for us to evolve, then there would be nothing to do in the game of life. You'd just be here and it would be boring and you wouldn't be able to experience growth and evolution. So that's a very, very high level, just a squirt into your understanding of what I came to deliver today. And this little slide is just showing you, it's a slow mover. Let's see, y'all. Try them again. Y'all still here? Huh? I don't see. Oh, there it moved twice. Let me just slow. Okay, here we go. So I was talking about the three levels on the gift, the shadow, and the city. I call it the essence. So the shadow is your challenge to surmount. The gift is the creative part of you that's just waiting to be awakened. And the city is like when you get to that place where I like to say you're just really unfuckwithable. You just accept the things that life offers you without any resistance, without any real pushback. You know, you just find a way to settle in and realize that you're here for a divine purpose and a divine reason, and you cannot get it wrong. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. There's so much more to be able to get into the lines and to allow you to see how this creation story just flows all through your body. But it's a lot to try to deliver in a little space like this. I just wanted to ignite you as I'm getting ready to start to accept people into taking this journey as it's being given to me as a 7th-month journey to walk with a very intimate group of people who are ready to look back, not just to transmute for yourself, but to transmute for your children's children's children, so that you really do change the structure of your DNA. And it's been a big thing for me and my kids. We talk about this stuff a lot. And I say, because now we have epigenetics. We used to say that how you are is how you are, but now we know this isn't true. You can change how you be by what you consume through your senses, what you hear, see, smell, taste, touch, and then through your higher senses, your intuition and your thinking. So that when Parker gets ready to shoot that sperm that's going to make that race, it's going to be different than the sperm of his younger self when he has so much that I had given him through my own transmutation from my wounding. And now we've had the opportunity to have conversations that have healed him at a cellular level. I know this because I can see it in both of them. I've talked to Paige all of her life about not having a baby, as I recognize this pattern of the women in my family of having children before they had a stable mate. I'm not even going to say a husband. And I did it too. And I told Paige, every woman in our family has done this thing, but you have the opportunity to do something different. And so she's 30 and she hasn't had a kid yet. And that already has broke the cycle because we've all had children by our 21st birthday. And she was my 21st birthday baby. And now she's 30 and we've already broken one cycle. And I'm grateful for that. So I have all of y'all's information. I'll be following up with you if you choose to take this journey. I'll be sending out all of the information. And thank you so much for taking time out to listen in for yourself. Somebody had posted, oh, it was Angie, and I'm so grateful for you, Angie. You say, y'all support Pam, make sure y'all support her. And I wanted to text and say, no, support yourself, because I want y'all to get this. I get it. I'm supported. I'm standing in it. I'm standing in it so firm that it would be a shame for me not to see others do it. And there's this word in the Hermetics tradition. It's called gnosis. And gnosis means that I'm not really teaching you with words, although you're hearing words. But if I'm saying something to you that I know to be true because I've experienced it in real time, it connects with a cell within you that surpasses any words that may come out of my mouth. And that's what I offer when people work with me. There's a knowing that transcends words, and it just goes inside of you and it ignites the part in you that knows also. And so I'm grateful that y'all are here. I'm going to stop the recording now.